Bruh. Oh my goodness. So I want to start off by saying I'm not making it racial. I'm just making an observation, okay? And upon that observation, I would argue that if I were to give you two names, Carmelo Anthony and Nikita Casap, that the vast majority of y'all would know who Carmelo Anthony is and not know who in the world Nikita Casap was. And I just find that interesting, okay? For me, I just find that absolutely mind-blowing, just fascinating, okay? Because Carmelo Anthony had a $1 million bail and Nikita Casap had a $1 million bail. Now, we all know what happened with Carmelo Anthony, him claiming self-defense. Regardless if you believe him or not, that's his story. When we have Nikita Casap, well, let's just say it's not self-defense. let's just go and say that, all right? Carmelo Anthony is black. Nikita Casap, that's correct. You guessed it, white. Now, Nikita Casap, he came from a broken household. He was an orphan. He had to fight every day. He then, went to school, and none of that is true. None of that is true. This man, this boy, he came from a loving two-parent household, all right? And the reason why I say that is because you know how much they want to talk about, well, it's a single-parent household with the black people. It's a single-parent house. As I've said before, as I've said ad nauseum, that the stark contrast is if that's what they want to say, the vast majority of the criminals that happen to be white males come from a loving two-parent household, that come from a middle or upper-class upbringing. Just so we're clear, okay? These aren't impoverished white kids going up and, shooting up the schools. That's not what's happening, all right? These aren't impoverished white kids going up and chopping off heads, and that's not what's happening. So I just want to be clear that when it comes to black youth, we can go down the list when it comes to the school to prison pipeline. We can go when it comes to education, when it comes to income disparity. We can go through healthcare disparity. We can go a litany of things and explain, okay, this is why that may have been a factor here and there. That's not the same for little Timmy. Okay, that's not the same for little Nikita.
Damn.
Now, Nikita, I'm just going to tell you what Nikita did. Nikita happened to Thanos snap both of his parents. That's correct. He happened to Thanos snap both of his parents. And the reason why is because he thought that would help him with his financial endeavor. And what he was trying to do was buy a drone and buy explosives. All right. That's what this little domestic terrorist was trying to do. This little white ignorant was trying to do. And the reason being is because he also had a manifesto. And in this manifesto, he was pro-Hitler. All right. Very pro-Hitler, white supremacist, white nationalist. And he wanted to do this to save the white race from, his words, Jewish politicians. Now, I don't know what to... Did I not have a video talking about this? Did I not have a live stream talking about how there's this youth, this undereducated youth who is being exploited? That's why when you have people, whether it's Nick Fuentes, whether it's, Steven Crowder, whether it's any of these other individuals who are promoting this drivel, whether, I would say these bad actors who are promoting this filth to the white youth, whether it's Charlie Kirk, okay, talking about DEI, I don't want to get on a plane because it's a black pilot. Listen, these white youth, these white ignorants are extremely impressionable. And it doesn't take very much to go down this rabbit hole and then they lose all hope. Okay, they become doomers. They thinking, oh, I'm not going to get a white girl because, the Jewish propaganda is telling them to get with black and brown people. Oh, and then the schools, I'm going to be discriminated against. And they build up, it's like the meme. They build up this fortress of fear of things that haven't happened and will never happen. and they just live in this constant fear. Roland Martin wrote a great book about it, White Fear. And because they are in such a state of fear, they lash out. They lose their minds. And unfortunately, these youth are going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Because once they start looking at, as far as the mental health situation, how they're skyrocketed per capita, when you start looking at the demographics, how it's declining, the birth rates for them per capita, astronomical numbers, and everything starts to add up. And they can't help but get into this fight or flight scenario. Their body gets crippled by fear. So then you have people like this, as we saw before in Buffalo, two white boys. This is what happens to them, and they get radicalized. And now we have a whole bunch of domestic terrorists. Hence why the FBI said that, hey, these white supremacist groups are some of the most dangerous, because they are radicalizing the poor white youth into thinking that they're victims. This narrative that the Republican Party, the right, is promoting and indoctrinating these white kids is a mindset of victimhood. That, hey, woe is me. There's nothing I can do because of my Jews. That's the mindset that they have. And they're like, well, it's the Jews that are controlling the blacks. That are making them hate us because they hate us because we're white. That's why because we're better than them. I'm telling you, it's a severely twisted mindset that he got, bro. And it's sad because a lot of them are, as I've said before, they all have some type of deformity about them, whether it's mentally or physically. And it's unfortunate because they lose all hope and they go down this rabbit hole, and this is what happens. And then they get into the Nazi and everything. They get into Nazi splaining, and Hitler wasn't that bad. And, well, how many Jews actually did happen in the Holocaust? All this goofy stuff, bro. All this goofy stuff that if they simply just worked out, weren't weirdos and had a social life, all that would disappear. All that would disappear. As I've said before, black men, you are responsible, okay? You are responsible for the decline of this country. We are responsible for people like Nikita. You have got to adopt an incel. That is your job in this country. Every black man out there, you have got to adopt an incel, all right? An incel a day keeps the domestic terrorists away. That's how that works, bro.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Because if they were busy, being cool and popular and doing good with women and making money, they wouldn't be worrying about Hitler. They wouldn't be worrying about, white supremacy. They wouldn't be worrying about the Jews. They wouldn't be worrying about that, bro. They'd be worrying about, how do I get a business, bro? How do I make Jewish friends so I can get into the pipeline and get into their, their manufacturing and everything? They'd be worrying about their upline and their downline. That's what they'd be worrying about. But instead, these mofos is got fear on their mind, bro. You have a duty in this country to adopt the incel because you see what happens.
Huh?
To top off this stupid Sunday is that this mofo did all this in hopes of assassinating President Trump. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. This is all what he was planning to do. He already did the first half of Thanos snapping the parents. You tell me why he got $1 million bail as the same as Carmelo Anthony. You explain that one to me, huh? I'm not making it racial. I'm just making an observation. How are those two the same? It doesn't make any sense to me. But nevertheless, nevertheless, I want you to understand that when you have a Nikita Casap, Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, that they'll probably argue that, hey, he's not mentally, it's a mental health issue. That's what it is. It's always that. It's never having to do as far as him being the poster child or the representation of the group. Do you ever notice that? When you have a Carmelo Anthony, well, he's a representation of all black people. All right. Well, look at him. That's just how they are. When you have someone like Nikita Casap, it's like, well, something probably happened to him. He's a poor kid. Something he probably just snapped. They have all the excuses. All right. As Paul Mooney would say, you have Nikita Casap says, what happened to you? Well, I just went off because I got depressed and, I just deleted the family. That's what happened. And the judge goes, oh, okay, I understand. We'll have to study that. I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe you're going through some things. But yeah, we're going to put you on, house arrest. That's what we're going to do, okay, until we figure it out. And then you have the black person who's like, they were kept messing with me. I defended myself. That's what it is. I told them, hey, touch me and see what happens. And that's what they did. And so I defended myself. That's what happens. And the judge goes, oh, really, nigga? Is that what happened? Yeah, you were defending yourself. That's right. Okay, yeah. Well, you're going to have to defend yourself in prison, okay, from Bubba, all right, who's been eyeing you, because we're going to give you life. Bam! And hits the gavel.
Wake up, nigga.
That's what happens. That's what happens. You'll never hear them talk about, hey, it's a cultural problem with white people. It's never a cultural problem with them, right? It's always, well, this is the individual. This is the individual. It's always that. That's always the case with them. Because If we were to treat this the same way they treat our black victims, we would simply say, well, it seems that there's a certain group of people based off of pattern recognition that seem to be low IQ and have low impulse control, and also seem to be susceptible to conspiracy theories. That's what it seems to be. And it seems that these people are a threat to the populace. That's what it seems. It seems that they're a threat to civilization in and of itself. I mean, what type of person goes to a grocery store and starts just airing it out, right? What type of person just offs their parents like this? Do y'all remember that one individual, that one dude who had his father's his head? He was holding it. Do y'all remember that? And he had it on camera. Do y'all remember that? Mum's a word, right? Nothing about culture. Nothing about what's wrong with these people? They need to be locked up. They're savages. They're animals. Okay, they're so violent. Nothing about that. So I just find it very interesting. Just the contrast when it comes to covering certain individuals and then other individuals. So just putting that out there. But yeah, when it comes to this kid, I think this story is egregious. I think everyone should know Nikita Casap. They should definitely know him more than Carmelo Anthony. But this is how the country works. It just is what it is. We choose to be here, and we understand this is how the country works. They will always downplay their violence, their corruption, their evil, their wickedness, as I say, lineage of evil, and they will always upplay ours, even though they're the ones that are responsible for us being in this situation. Because, once again, they never want to take responsibility. Never. That's the lineage of evil. That's what they do. They smack you and then claim victim when you hit them back. That's how that works. So I just wanted to put this out there just so we have, just a reference, okay? A reference of how they treat a white 17-year-old and how they treat a black 17-year-old. Not making it racial, just making an observation. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think. I'm not sure what the either or is here. I really don't know. I don't know how you could spin this in any way, shape, or form. I don't know, but I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Nevertheless, if you happen to disagree, you know where to find me on Disagreement Day. Friday through Sunday, Disagreement Day, you'll call in, we'll duke it out. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to like, share, comment. Let me know what you guys think about this, and subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Till next time, guys, be amazing. Okay, I understand. We'll have to study that. I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe you're going through some things.